Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official class one, but our second time getting together, going over this book, Prosperity by Charles Fillmore. I turn the right for the camera. This book is chock full of information that's life-changing, that's life beneficial, that's helpful. And so we're going to be going from one class to another. You may get a slightly different panel. Reverend Christina's not able to join us this evening. So I will introduce myself. I'm Reverend Wally White from Unity in Greensboro, and here's our other panelist.
Good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time you happen to be watching this. I'm Reverend Todd Humphrey. I'm the spiritual leader at Crystal Coast Unity in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. And again, we are reading Prosperity by Charles Fillmore. This was originally published in 1936, and it is filled with wisdom about prosperity and abundance and this expansion in consciousness that Wally and I are really excited to go over tonight and to share with everyone. We're going to start by reading chapter 1. We'll interrupt and maybe have some discussion, and then we'll have some questions at the end. And we want to remind you that as you watch this, put your questions in the chat. Let us know what is on your mind. Let us know if things really resonate with you or if you're challenged by some of these ideas, because this is about having a virtual conversation as we bring these truths into our lives. So let's get started with chapter 1. So prosperity. Lesson 1, spiritual substance, the fundamental basis of the universe. Divine mind is the one and only reality. When we incorporate the ideas that form this mind into our mind and persevere in those ideas, a mighty strength wells up within us. Then we have a foundation for the spiritual body. The body not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. When the spiritual body is established in consciousness, its strength and power is transmitted to the visible body and to all the things that we touch in the world about us. Spiritual discernment reveals that we are now in the dawn of a new era, that the old methods of supply and support are fast passing away, and that new methods are waiting to be brought forth. In the coming commerce, man will not be a slave to money. Humanity's daily needs will be met in ways that are not now thought practical. We shall serve for the joy of serving, and prosperity will flow to us and through us in streams of plenty. The supply and support that love and zeal will set in motion are not as yet largely used by man, but those who have tested their providing power are loud in their praise. The dynamic power of the supermind in man has been sporadically displayed by men and women of every nation. It is usually connected with some religious rite in which mystery and priestly authority prevail. The so-called common herd are kept in darkness with respect to the source of the superhuman power of occult adepts and holy men. But we have seen a great light in the discovery by physical scientists that the atom conceals electrical energies whose mathematical arrangement determines the character of all the fundamental elements of nature. This discovery has disrupted the science based on the old mechanical atomic theory, but it has also given Christian metaphysicians a new understanding of the dynamic back of spirit. Science now postulates space rather than matter as the source of life. It says that the very air is alive with dynamic forces that await man's grasp and utilization, and that these invisible, omnipresent energies possess potentialities far beyond our most exalted conception. What we have been thought about the glories of heaven pales into insignificance compared with the glories of the radiant rays, popularly referred to as the ether. We are told by science that we have utilized very meagerly this mighty ocean of ether in producing from it the light and power of electricity. This seemingly tremendous force generated by the whirl of our dynamos is but a weak dribble from a universe of energy. The invisible waves that carry radio programs everywhere are but a mere hint of an intelligent power that penetrates and permeates every germ of life, visible and invisible. Scientific minds the world over have been tremendously moved by these revolutionary discoveries, and they have not found language adequate to explain their magnitude. Although a number of books have been written by scientists setting forth guardedly the far-reaching effects that will inevitably follow man's appropriation of the easily accessible ether, none has dared to tell the whole story. The fact is that the greatest discovery of all ages is that of physical science, that all things apparently have their source in the invisible, intangible ether. What Jesus taught so profoundly in symbols about the riches of the kingdom of heavens has now been proved true. Let's pause and just consider these ideas for a second. Wally, did anything specific come up for you around this idea of the intersection of science and spirituality?
Yeah, no, that's something that I've loved for a long time, because when people debate, what's right between science and religion, I've always said, why are you choosing? Like, what science is ultimately doing is just unfolding some new information about how God works and always has. And it doesn't prove that, oh no, it's not some invisible God, it's invisible science instead. No, it's like, no, science is just like letting us know about that part. And I do think that's a stretch for some people because they've been taught in a very specific path, but it's not one that I easily get behind, because I just think, like, when I learned in New Thought lessons in the early days, God is all there is, and that we're one with God. That was new information, and yet there was this other part of me that was like, yeah.
I love that you went there, because the truth is what we've just read in this chapter is the first principle of unity, right? There's only one power, one presence everywhere, right? Equally everywhere. There's, and there is no place that God is not. And so even in the visible and in the invisible, in this ether, and that's probably was a very common word when Charles wrote this book. We don't hear it a lot now, but
Right.
Even the visible and the invisible, it's all this God of principle, this energy existing as potentiality. So it really underlines that first principle for me, and draws that line together, as you were saying. You don't have to choose science or spirituality.
And I think, I don't know that he's put it in these words yet, but like, that is, if you turn us off right now and like what you've gotten is all you're going to get in prosperity lessons from us, if you get that all there is God, there's your lesson. Because the second people want to start telling you why you should go back to bed and cry because the market's doing bad, or that the interest rates are going up on houses, and that the world's going to end, like, the second all that starts happening, I'm not saying none of that isn't real in its own way within our human experience. Of course it is, and I have unhappiness around some of that too, but I can't allow it to rule me, because I now know, in that you got to know that you know what you know. So like, in that confident way that you can't be shook, is that God is all there is. So, my old aunt would have said, well, that's just something for God to work out. But like, not just assuming it's going to happen, knowing that it's going to happen, because when you know it happens, you are participating in it, because that kind of knowing, all right, God, show me how you're going to do this. That's not saying some outside force. That's calling the inside you into this, saying, get it done.
Yes.
Show us the next piece.
Prove me now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's jump back in. I'm starting on the second paragraph on page 11. According to the Greek, the language in which the New Testament has come down to us, Jesus did not use the word heaven, but the word heavens in his teaching. He was not telling us of the glories of some faraway place called heaven, but was revealing the properties of the heavens all around us, called both space and ether by physicists. He taught not only its dynamic, but also its intelligent character. He said that the entity that rules it is within man. The kingdom of God is within you. He not only described this kingdom of the heavens in numerous parables, but made its attainment by man the greatest object of human existence. He not only set this as man's goal, but attained it himself, thereby demonstrating that his teaching is practical as well as true. The scientists tell us that the ether is charged with electricity, magnetism, light rays, X-rays, cosmic rays, and other dynamic radiations, that it is the source of all life, light, heat, energy, gravitation, attraction, repulsion. In short, that it is the interpreting essence of everything that exists on the earth. In other words, science gives to the ether all the attractions of heaven without directly saying so. Jesus epitomized the subject when he told his followers that it was the kingdom from which God clothed and fed all his children. Seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Science says that the electrical particles that break into light in our Earth's atmosphere are also a source of all substance and matter. Jesus said that he was the substance and bread that came from the heavens. When will our civilization begin really to appropriate and use this mighty ocean of substance and life spiritually as well as physically?
So can we take a second there?
Please, yeah.
Two things that I want to say, and one we were talking about earlier, but the first is I'm in the process of doing a series of lessons on the Lord's Prayer, and so I've been doing all the metaphysical interpretations and all of that, and so I'm like kind of knee deep in using heaven from the metaphysical standpoint, which is defined as being harmony between our soul and our body consciousness. And so meaning the harmony between that invisible God presence and power, but it not just being something that we get to use when we close our eyes and go into prayer and meditation, but that it be something that we use in our physical body consciousness, meaning when our awake time, when we're walking around being who we are being as human beings. And that, so heaven's not something you earn your way to later. Heaven's something that you pull on and use right now,
Yes.
in that way. And so that it's about a frame of mind. It's about a perspective that you can use or not. And the good thing about that is if you catch yourself not, instead of just being like, oh, bad me, why aren't I doing that? You can just start doing it because you're in charge of you. So you can be like, oh, I wasn't doing something that I really enjoy doing. Let me start doing what I really enjoy doing. Let me pull on heaven right here, right now, in this moment, in this place. The other thing I was going to say was when he says here, Jesus said that, like in that moment, like I stopped listening for a second beyond that, because I think that a lot of the real big information that we use that gets quoted as Jesus is from the Bible isn't appropriately quoted. And you and I have had that private conversation, but I thought when I read it right there and we had already had that private conversation, I'm like, let's have that public conversation right now and get everybody else on board. That a lot of the times when it's being, purported that Jesus said that it's really the Christ within saying these things. And the good news on that is that we all have the Christ within us. So it's not about one man thousands of years ago saying something. It's about the spiritual part of us saying something.
Absolutely. And that is such an important part. And people that haven't taken one of the, the teachings of Jesus aren't going to recognize that we in unity look at Jesus in three different ways, with Jesus, the perfect idea of man in divine mind, and Jesus Christ, which is the awakened Jesus, knowing the Christ of his being, which is where a lot of these texts, as you talk about, that attribute, oh, Jesus said this. Well, it was the I am, the core of his being, the truth of who he was, talking from his individuality versus his personality. And
Right.
then we have Christ Jesus, which is the ascended Jesus, that shows up later in scriptures. And so yeah, when we're talking about, as Jesus says this, we're talking about the I am presence within. So great call out.
Let's see what else it says in here.
I've put my readers back on.
I hear you.
This inexhaustible mind substance is available at all times and in all places to those who have learned to lay hold of it in consciousness. The simplest, shortest, and most direct way of doing this was explained when Jesus said, "Whosoever shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that what he saith cometh to pass, he shall have it." When we know that certain potent ideas exist in the invisible mind expressions named by science, both ether and space, and that we have been provided with the mind to lay hold of them, it is easy to put the law into action through thought and word and deed. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune, said Shakespeare. That flood tide awaits for us in the cosmic spaces, the paradise of God. Now, I want to pause here briefly and talk for just a second about this inexhaustible mind substance. This inexhaustible mind substance, sometimes we can still rest in that duality that, oh, this is the stuff that God is giving to me. But there's only one power and one presence. So this substance is both supply and the supplier at the same time. Right? God is not all powerful. God is all power. God is not providing us with all supply. God is the supply and the supplier.
Right.
And that helps take the duality out of it. And that's what we're learning to do as we open up in consciousness and experience this, is realize there's no other, right? There is no duality. So I wanted to point that out.
Yeah. And I think that either I read this somewhere else or I'm correct that this is the metaphysical definition of the word prosperity. Isn't cash and houses and cars. Those are all cool. I love them and we should use them as often as we want to. But the actual definition of prosperity is knowing your source and supply.
Yes, absolutely. And here's one of the things, that you have to have learned how to lay hold of it in consciousness.
Right.
Lay hold of it in consciousness, because all of those other things are nice. The cash, the nice car, the big house, the second house at the beach, or whatever second or third home you want to have, or second or third car, all of these possessions, right? And this is where this prosperity teaching has gone a little off track in mainstream culture. I believe you can manifest anything you want to manifest, right? But I have a dear friend who says, absolutely, you can manifest the yacht, but to keep the yacht, you have to become in consciousness the kind of person that keeps a yacht, right?
Right.
So this is not about what we can attract in the material world and add to our possessions. This is about learning to expand in consciousness and use the ideas, right?
Yes,
Because our prosperity is in divine ideas.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
all right, let's jump back in and see what else Fillmore wants to tell us. The spiritual substance from which comes all visible wealth is never depleted. It is right with you all the time and responds to your faith in it and your demands on it. It is not affected by our ignorant talk of hard times, though we are affected because our thoughts and words govern our demonstration. The unfailing resource is always ready to give. It has no choice in the matter. It must give, for that is its nature. Pour your living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, and you will be prospered through all the banks in the world. Let me go back and read that. Though all the banks in the world close their doors. Pour your living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, and you will be prospered, though all the banks in the world close their doors. Turn the great energy of your thinking toward plenty ideas, and you will have plenty, regardless of what men about you are saying or doing. Ooh. Like you were just saying, Wally, this is so important to remember as, every time you turn on the news, they're talking about how high inflation is and how the markets aren't responding and how expensive groceries are. And you can choose to buy into that. And that is data in the material world. And that has nothing to do with the prosperity that we experience.
Unless we allow ourselves to buy into the negative chitter chatter, right? Yeah, that's where it is about setting an expectation, not just in the trusting and like to say I have faith that I'm going to be taken care of is lovely, but there's this connotation of faith that like I have faith that God, the old white man on the cloud, you've seen him, that he's going to take care of this, right? It's like, no, I have faith because I expect it, because I've experienced it some, I tested it, I tried it out, and I expect for that good to show up in some way. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to have a hiccup moment, that the account doesn't get lower than I prefer, that whatever the thing is, that like that love interest doesn't make that phone call when you want them to. That doesn't mean that that's not going to happen, but it means that I can still continue to expect the prosperity of being cared for and knowing that it's going to work out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Back to our text. God is substance. But if by this statement we mean that God is matter, a thing of time or condition, then we should say that God is substance-less. God is not confined to that form of substance which we term matter. God is the intangible essence of that which man has formed into and named matter. Matter is a mental limitation of that divine substance whose vital and inherent character is manifest in all life expression. God substance may be conceived as God energy or spirit light, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This is in harmony with the conclusions of some of the most advanced physicists. Sir James Jeans says in The Mysterious Universe, the tendency of modern physics is to resolve the whole material universe into waves and nothing but waves. The waves are of two kinds: bottled up waves, which we call matter, and unbottled waves, which we call radiation or light. The process of annihilation of matter is merely unbottling imprisoned wave energy and setting it free to travel through space. Spirit is not matter. Spirit is not person. In order to perceive the essence of being, we must drop from our mind all thought that God is in any way circumscribed or has any of the limitations that we associate with things or persons having form or shape. Thou shalt not make unto thee a graven image, nor any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath. God is substance, not matter, because matter is formed while God is the formless. God's substance lies back of matter and form. It is the basis of all form, yet does not enter into any form as a finality. Substance cannot be seen, touched, tasted, or smelled, yet it is more substantial than matter, for it is the only substantiality in the universe. Its nature is to substand or stand under or behind matter as its support and only reality. Job says, the Almighty shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver. This refers to the universal substance, for silver and gold are manifestations of an everywhere present substance and are used as symbols for it. Lew Wallace in Ben-Hur refers to the kingdom as beaten gold. You have doubtless in your own experience caught sight of this everywhere present substance in your silence, when it seemed like golden snowflakes falling all about you. This was the first manifestation from the overflow of the universal substance in your consciousness. Substance is first given form in the mind, and as it becomes manifest, it goes through a threefold activity. In laying hold of substance in the mind and bringing it into manifestation, we play a most important part. We do it according to our decree. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. We are always decreeing, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. And with every thought and word, we are increasing or diminishing the threefold activity of substance. The resulting manifestation conforms to our thought. As he thinketh within himself, so is he.
Can we talk about that?
Let's talk about that. Absolutely.
I just want to go back to that. I think like the key sentence here is we are always decreeing, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. That we are speaking truth into our experience all the time.
Yes. And sometimes what we are speaking creates limit in our lives.
Often, even. Yeah.
If you are speaking lack and limitation into your own life, you are frustrating the potential experience of prosperity available to you. And I can see that clearly because I do it to myself all the time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're this is a spiritual practice that we are in practice to learn how to let go of these limiting ideas that show up consciously and unconsciously.
It becomes, I mean, it's one of the earliest lessons I got too, is you got to watch your mouth because your words become things. And, it goes deeper than that. You then have to really think things on purpose. And then you have to choose to feel things on purpose because it keeps getting deeper in there. Like your feelings ultimately help create what your thoughts are going to be. And your thoughts absolutely create what your words are going to be. And your words are then these seeds that get planted and grow into the manifestations of what's currently. You want to know what you said yesterday or a couple of weeks ago? Look around you because you're currently manifesting it. Yeah,
absolutely. So I want to take this just a little step further because this is something I am really passionate about. Is the resulting manifestation conforms to our thought. As he thinketh within himself, so is he. So what I want to point out is that at the most expansive place we can be in consciousness, we know our oneness. Right.
Right.
And so from our limited perception, if we individually think that it's okay for someone to be homeless or for someone to go hungry, then what we are essentially agreeing to is that someday I can be hungry or I can be homeless.
Yeah.
And see, that to me is like when I look at some of these bigger cities and then even like rural areas near where I live, food instability is a real issue. And so in this race consciousness, right, the human race consciousness that Fillmore talks about in a number of books, and I'm thinking later in this one as well. In race consciousness, if we've decided it's okay for people to be hungry, like in these big cities where you have food deserts, or
Right.
in rural areas where you have to drive 2 hours to get to a grocery store. So you better be farming some food for yourself.
Right.
We decide that that's okay, and suddenly we're looking at the potential of a global food shortage. We've held in consciousness that this is okay, and no amount of action in our communities is going to be enough unless we all have a change in thought and realize it's not okay for anyone to go hungry.
Right.
I'll step
And then
down
the
on my
key step
soapbox.
is that if you're not giving someone something because they need it, you're not, you're giving it to them because that's what we're called to do, is to give. And like, you're giving it to them absolutely as much to make sure you get your next meal as you're, oh, poor so-and-so, let me give them something.
Yeah,
Because without
yeah.
me, yeah.
But we're also giving out of our abundance.
Correct.
Right? I mean, when we in race consciousness allow food to sit, grains to sit in a silo and rot, as opposed to shipping them to places where they could be consumed.
Right.
Right. We're out of integrity with what we believe.
Right.
Right. Because I mean, as Moses wandered the desert with the Israelites, and there was a lack of food, and then they have every morning they have manna from heaven.
Yeah.
And every day's needs are met. And that's the lesson for us. There is all our needs are met when we open to receive,
Right.
and we take care of one another, because at the level of spirit we're all one.
Right.
So I'll step off my soapbox now and go back to this is the last paragraph on page 15. There is no scarcity in the air you breathe. There is plenty of air, all you will ever need. But if you close your lungs and refuse to breathe, you will not get it and may suffocate for lack of air. When you recognize the presence of abundance of air and you open your lungs to breathe it deeply, you get a larger inspiration. This is exactly what you should do with your mind in regard to substance. There is an all sufficiency of all things, just as there is an all sufficiency of air. The only lack is our own lack of appropriation. We must seek the kingdom of God and appropriate it aright before things will be added to us in fullness. There is a kingdom of abundance of all things, and it may be found by those who seek it and are willing to comply with its laws. Jesus said that it is hard for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. This does not mean that it is hard because of his wealth, for the poor man gets in no faster and no easier. It is not money, but the thoughts of men hold about money, its source, its ownership, and its use that keep them out of the kingdom. Men's thoughts about money are like their thoughts about all possessions. They believe that things coming out of the earth are theirs to claim and control as individual property and may be hoarded away and depended on, regardless of how much other men may be in a need of them. The same belief is prevalent among both rich and poor, and even if those two classes were suddenly to change places, the inequities of wealth would not be remedied. Only a fundamental change in the thoughts of wealth could do that. Before there is any fundamental social or economic change, men must begin to understand their relationship to God and to one another as common heirs to the universal resource that is sufficient for all. They must give up some of their erroneous ideas about their rights. They must learn that they cannot possess and lock up that which belongs to God without themselves suffering the effects of that sequestration. The poor man is not the greatest sufferer in this concentration of wealth, for he has not concentrated his faith in material things and chained his soul to them. Those who are rich in the things of this world are, by their dependence on those things, binding themselves to material things, are in material darkness. Every thought of personal possession must be dropped out of the mind before men can come into the realization of the invisible supply. They cannot possess money, houses, or land selfishly, because they cannot possess the universal ideas for which these symbols stand. No man can possess any idea as his own permanently. He may possess its material symbol for a little time on the plane of phenomena, but it is such riches that moth and rust consume, as were thieves break through and steal. Men possess as valuables their education, trade, ability, or intellectual talent. Ministers of the gospel possess scholarship or eloquence and take pride in their spiritual possessions. Yet even these are burdens that must be unloaded before they may enter into the kingdom of the heavens. The saint who is puffed up with his saintly goodness must unload his vanity before he gets in. Whoever is ambitious to do good, to excel his fellow men in righteousness, must lose his ambition and desire before he beholds the face of the all-providing Father. The realm of causes may be compared to steam in a glass boiler. If the glass is clear, one may look at it and see nothing at all. Yet when an escape valve is touched, the steam rushes out, condenses, and becomes visible. But in this process, it has also lost its power. Substance exists in a realm of ideas and is powerful when handled by one who is familiar with its characteristics. The ignorant open the valves of the mind and let ideas flow out into a realm with which they have nothing in common. The powerful ideas of substance are condensed into the thoughts of time and space, which ignorance conceives as being necessary to their fruition. Thus, their power is lost, and a weary round of seed time and harvest is inaugurated to fulfill the demands of the world. It is the mind that believes in personal possessions that limits the full idea. God's world is a world of results that sequentially follow demands. It is in this kingdom that man finds his true home. Labor has ceased for him who has found this inner kingdom. Divine supply is brought forth without laborious struggle. To desire is to have fulfillment.
That's a powerful statement.
That is, to desire is to have fulfillment.
Which means
that might make a good tattoo.
Yeah, because I think most of us tend to think of desire as the wanting of fulfillment. But this lesson is saying that to truly be fulfilled is to always be desiring. Like I think the way Abraham Hicks says that is, you're never done. You're never done. The fulfillment is in always looking at the next step. and I think, and metaphysically, what came up to me too is the metaphysical lesson at Christmas that I always got from Reverend Della was, what ideas are you pregnant with now? Are you ready to give birth to these new ideas into your life and world, or do you need to hold them close for a bit longer? And then even when you give birth to them, if you think of ideas like a baby growing into an adult, like, is this an infant that still needs your care, or are you willing to toss it out into the world and see how it goes? And I feel like I got that message just now here as well.
I had to pull out my pen and take some notes. You just gave me some ideas. Well, I love doing this. Yeah, that yes, I agree. All that and more. Beautiful. Thank you. So we are starting the last chapter on page 18. Would you like to read for a little bit?
Sure. Okay. It says, this is the second step of demonstration for the one who has fully dedicated himself to the divine guidance. He immediately enters into easier experiences and more happiness than the world affords when he covenants to follow only the good. There is an advanced degree along the same lines of initiation into the mysteries of the divine. Before this step may be taken, a deeper and more thorough mental cleansing must be undergone. A higher set of faculties is then awakened within the body, and new avenues of expression are opened for the powers of the spirit, not only in the body, but also in the affairs of the individual. As he proceeds to exercise these faculties, he may find some of them clogged by crystals of dead thought, and some selfish ideas have deposited, which makes him go through a fresh cleansing. If he is obedient to the Spirit and willing to follow without cavil or protest, the way is easy for him. If, however, he questions and argues, as did Job, he will meet many obstructions, and his journey will be long and tedious. Again, he who seeks the kingdom of substance for the sake of the loaves and fishes, he may get out of it, will surely be disappointed in the end. He may get the loaves and fishes, that is quite possible. But if there remains in his soul any desire to use them for selfish ends, the ultimate result will be disastrous. Many people are seeking the aid of spirit to heal them of their physical ills. They have no desire for the higher life, but having found their lust and passions curtailed by physical infirmities, they want these erased in order that they may continue in their fleshly way. It is the experience of all who have dealt with the spirit that it is a vigorous bodily stimulant. It restores the vitality of the body until it is even more sensitive to pleasure or pain than it was before the spiritual awakening. This supersensitiveness makes it more susceptible and liable to be more rapid waste if further indulgence is gratified. That is why those who receive spiritual treatment should be fully instructed in the truth of being. They should be shown that the indulgence of bodily passions is a sin against their success in every walk of life, and especially in the way of finances and prosperity. If thought, oh, sorry, I think I turned an extra page there. Let me make sure I got myself in the right place. If substance is dissipated, every kind of lack begins to be felt. Retribution always follows the indulgence of appetite and passion for mere sensation. Both sinners and saints suffer in the valley of folly. The alternative is to dedicate yourself to the Father's business. Make a definite and detailed covenant with the Father. Lay your desires, appetites, and passions at his feet, and agree to use all your substance in the most exalted way. Then you are seeking the kingdom, and all things else shall be added unto you. Can we just stop there for a second? Because I just want to make sure that people are getting what I think is the message here, and not what I think there's room to hear what you want to hear here. And
Yes.
and so let's be clear that there is no sin in having fun in sensual ways. Let me speak more clearly. It's fine to have sex if you want to have it and enjoy it. But it's where the problem comes in is if you think the only way for you to have a good day is to enjoy it or anything else, that we're labeling. It's the scripture that gets misused all the time about, the money is the path, or whatever, but it's not the money that's the problem. It's the love of it that's the problem. And so
money is the root of all evil, but it's really the love of money.
Right. And that's true here too. And I think most of the world's rules around stuff like sex doesn't come into play of truth either. I am unmarried, never been married, but I've had sex. And and this is not suddenly becoming that class, but I'm just to say in there, there's been times when I've chased somebody with a feeling of need that they couldn't fulfill because I was looking outside of me to be fulfilled. But there's also been people that I've shared great love with that we just found some things we had in common that we really like to talk about, and then things grew from there. And to me, those are the two differences of this. What do you have to say about that, Todd?
I don't really have anything additional to add to that. It's in so many ways we devalue our physical experience to be enlightened and have in the pursuit of enlightenment. We deny the body, and we're here as individualized expressions of Christ to have the physical experience.
Right.
And so have the physical experience, have it fully, and go back to the truth continuously of the truth that we are already whole, right? Our wholeness exists, and nobody outside needs to fulfill it. Nobody outside needs to complete us. No thing needs to complete us. That we are already whole, and that we are healthy, right, in spirit.
Right.
Now, does that mean that some of us don't have some physical ailments? Absolutely, we have some physical ailments, right? Both of us are wearing glasses tonight to read this book. There are physical things that show up, but the truth of who we are is completely whole and healthy, and it's up to us to bring that into manifestation. It's up to us to bring that into the truth. I'm still learning how to do that, but I know it's possible.
Every day. Yeah. Yeah. And when we go about sharing ourselves from our whole and completeness versus sharing ourselves to get the feeling of whole and completeness, those are two drastically different experiences.
Yes.
And one has a chance of being very fulfilling, and the other one never will.
And you will leave that experience feeling depleted and just low energy, sad. Eventually, I mean, in the moment it might be great, but when you have that experience that is formed in the sacred of your wholeness and their wholeness, right? What an incredible experience. And those, when we have them with any particular person, those are the people we never forget.
Right.
Yeah.
So absolutely. All right, let's get back into it. We got a few more pages to go here.
Yes, you start reading. I have to step away. My dog is trying to get in the house. I left her outside. I'll be right back.
Okay.
You keep reading.
Yep. So I believe this is where I left off. It says, we want to make the substance that faith has brought to our mind enduring and abiding, so that we do not lose it when banks fail or men talk of hard times. We must have in our finances a consciousness of the permanency of the omnipresent substance as it abides in us. Some wealthy families succeed in holding their wealth while others dissipate it in one generation because they do not have the consciousness of abiding substance. For many of us, there is either a feast or a famine in the matter of money, and we need the abiding consciousness. There is no reason why we should not have a continuous, even flow of substance, both in income and outgo. If we have freely received, we must also freely give and keep substance going, confident in our understanding that our supply is unlimited and that it is always right at hand in the omnipresent mind of God. In this understanding, we can stand the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, depressions, losses, and financial failures, and still see God as abundant substance waiting to come into manifestation. That is what Paul meant by taking up the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day. The substance that has in the past been manifest in our affairs is still here. It is the same substance and it cannot be taken away. Even though there seems to be material lack, there is plenty of substance for all. We are standing in the very midst of it. Like the fish, we might ask, where is the water? When we live and move and have our being in it. It is in the water, in the air, everywhere, abounding, glorious, spiritual substance. Take that thought and hold it. Refuse to be shaken from your spiritual stand in the very midst of God's prosperity and plenty. And supply will begin to come forth from the ether, and plenty will become more and more manifest in your affairs. I'm going to turn part of that into a meme for Facebook. I really want people to hear that. So, yes. But I'll keep going for now. Jesus so charged with spiritual substance that when the woman touched his garment, the healing virtue went out from it and she was healed. There were thousands of people in the crowd, but only the woman who had faith in the substance got it. It was already established in her consciousness, and she knew that her needs would be met if she could make the contact. In this, there is a lesson for us. We know that strength is manifest everywhere, for we see it in the mechanical world. A great locomotive starts from the depot, moving slowly at first, but then it gains momentum. It speeds down the track like a streak. Thus, it is with spiritual strength, beginning sometimes with a very small thought. It takes on momentum and eventually becomes a powerful idea. Every one of us can strengthen his hold on the thought of divine substance until it becomes a powerful idea, filling the consciousness and manifesting it as plenty in all our affairs. As you lay hold of substance with your mind, make it permanent and enduring. Realize your oneness with it. You are unified with the one living substance, which is God, your all-sufficiency. From this substance, you were created. In it, you live and move and have your being. By it, you are fed and prospered. That's another good meme right there. I'm creating memes for Facebook. The spiritual substance is steadfast and immovable, enduring. It does not fluctuate with market reports. It does not decrease in hard times, nor increase in good times. It cannot be hoarded away to cause a deficiency in supply and a higher price. It cannot be exhausted in doles to meet the needs of privation. It is ever the same, constant, abundant, freely circulating, and available. The spiritual substance is a living thing, not an inanimate accumulation of bread that does not satisfy hunger, nor water that fails to quench thirst. It is living bread and living water, and he that feeds on God's substance shall never hunger and never thirst. The substance is an abiding thing, not a bank deposit that can be withdrawn, nor a fortune that can be lost. It is an unfailing principle that is as sure in its workings as the law of mathematics. Man can no more be separated from his supply of substance than life can be separated from its source. As God permeates the universe and life permeates every cell of the body, so does substance flow freely through man, free from all limit or qualification. In the new era, that is even now at this dawn, we shall have a spirit of prosperity. This principle of the universal substance will be known and acted on, and there will be no place for lack. Supply will be more equalized. There will not be millions of bushels of wheat stored in musty warehouses while people go hungry. Todd mentioned that. There will be no overproduction or underconsumption or other inequalities of supply. For God's substance will be reorganized and used by all people. Men will not pile up fortunes one day and lose them the next, for they will no longer fear the integrity of their neighbors, nor try to keep their neighbor's share from them. Is this an impractical utopia? The answer depends on you. Just as soon as you individually recognize the omnipresent substance and put your faith in it, you can look for others around you and do the same. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump, and even one life that bears witness to the truth of prosperity law will quicken the consciousness of the whole community. Whoever you are and whatever your immediate need, you can demonstrate the law. If your thoughts are confused, become still and know. Be still and know that you are one with the substance and with the law of its manifestation. Say with conviction, I am strong, immovable spirit substance. I'm going to say that one again and ask you to say it wherever you're listening to us now. I am strong, immovable spirit substance. This will open the door of your mind to an inflow of substance-filled ideas. As they come, use them freely. Do not hesitate or doubt that they will bring results. They are God's ideas given to you in answer to your prayer and in order to supply your needs. There are substance, intelligent, loving, eager to manifest themselves to meet your need. God is the source of a mighty stream of substance, and you are a tributary, is that the word? Tributary of the stream, a channel of expression. Blessing the substance increases its flow. If your money supply is low or your purse seems empty, take it in your hands and bless it. See it filled with the living substance ready to become manifest. As you prepare your meals, bless the food with the thought of spiritual substance. When you dress, bless your garment and realize that you are being constantly clothed with God's substance. Do not center your thoughts on yourself, your interest, your gains or losses, but realize the universal nature of substance. The more conscious you become of the presence of the living substance, the more it will manifest itself for you, and the richer will be the common good of all. Do not take anyone's word for it, but try the law for yourself. The other fellow's realization of substance will not guarantee your supply. You must become conscious of it for yourself. Identify yourself with substance until you make it yours, It will change your finances, destroy your fears, stop your worries, and you will soon begin to rejoice in the ever-present bounty of God. Be still and turn within to the great source. See the eye of faith with the whole world. See the eye of faith. See with the eye of faith that the whole world is filled with substance. See it falling all about you as snowflakes of gold and silver, and affirm with assurance, Jesus Christ is now here, raising me to his consciousness of omnipresent, all-providing God substance, and my prosperity is assured. I have unbounded faith in the all-present spiritual substance, increasing and multiplying at my word. And so ends chapter 1.
Lots to ponder and think about.
Yeah.
Great information, and thank you, Wally, for a great conversation. I want to swing back there to something in this last little section that you read.
Yeah.
That there is no place for lack. There is no place for lack in our consciousness. Because if you see lack in your life, it's because you're holding lack in your consciousness somewhere. If I see lack in my life, I'm holding lack somewhere in my consciousness. And this is this invitation to get real and to see the truth and to know that our prosperity is assured. It is assured.
And always available, and often available in just a different way than what we think it's supposed to come in the form of. So that's how we truly manifest our that prosperity, is by allowing it to arrive versus demanding it show up in a very specific form.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great point. So
All right.
friends, if you have joined us, we want to remind you, leave some comments, like and share this video. Let people know about this New Thought tradition and how we are in control of our experience, including our experience of prosperity. So like, comment, share, email Wally, email me. Let's have conversations, and let's really shift to an even greater experience of prosperity.
There's a lot of fun to have in this world. Let's do it together, and from a spiritual place that makes it even more fun and more grounded.
Absolutely. Wally,
right.
Thank you so much for setting this up and for spending this hour together. It's been great.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you all next week.
Peace and blessings.